Well, this is Module 1 of the course entitled Trivangelism, Reimagining the E-word, Reimagining Evangelism. And this volume, of course, let me give you the rest of the modules. Module 1 is Reimagining the E-word. Module 2, Journey Evangelism versus Salesman Evangelism. Module 3 is the Trivangelism process. Module 4 is the Trivangelism holistic quadrilateral. That will be an interesting module. And then module number 5 is guerrilla evangelism. Module 6, Christian education as evangelism. Module number 7 is evangelism outside the box. Module 8, the theology and strategy for evangelism. Module number 9, challenging pre-Christians. And the 10th module is what is discipleship anyway. So this module is reimagining the E-word, the reimagining evangelism. First of all, let me say that Trivangelism is a 3-year commitment to reach 3 people with the good news and teaching them to do the same in that same period of time. Each person leading just one person to Christ can reach more than the big events with celebrity evangelists. Out, someone said, is evangelism as a sales pitch, as conquest, as warfare, as an ultimatum, as a threat, as proof, as an argument, as entertainment, as show, and as a monologue, as something you have to do. In its place is disciple making as conversation, as friendship, as influence, as invitation, as companionship, as a challenge, as an opportunity, as conversation, as a dance, as something you get to do. You're more ready for this than you realize, and so are your friends. That's a quotation from Brian McLaren. Lost people matter to God. God is in an all-out search to find them. God is looking for partners in ministry. God wants partners in sacrifice. We sacrifice order. We sacrifice neatness. We sacrifice control. We sacrifice the comfort that comes with only meeting the needs of people like ourselves. We sacrifice in Trivangelism the tranquility of those who close their eyes to the eternal needs of others. So Trivangelism is indeed a sacrifice that only a small minority in the church is willing to partake of. Just a small group of people. Because my abiding point of contention is anchored in my suspicion that the E-word, evangelism, has been colonized by institutionalization, whereby we have come to the conclusion that we have a mission. This is a disturbing claim. So much so that we develop strategies for success. We formulate processes for their implementation, and we take credit when it is successful and ignore any sane analysis of its paralysis when it fails. The truth is, we don't have a mission. God has a mission, and God is inviting us to be a part of this trivangelism process. The appraisal for which I advocate must find its genesis in the definition of this E word. We need to be clear about what we are talking about. What is evangelism? What does it include, and what does it exclude? Who defines it, and for whom? And how do we recognize when evangelism, when we see it in action? How do we know that it's really working? It seems that everyone wants a piece of the pie. Missiologists, researchers, statisticians, ecumenical associations, parachurch organizations, denominations, congregations, and individual Christians all get into the act of trying to define what evangelism is all about. Some claim universality for their view of the E word. Others insist that their ideas are merely personal opinions, and some desire passionately to evangelize the world, while others want to evangelize their neighborhood, which is good. It is indeed a daunting task and challenge to sort out the myriad perspectives, opinions, definitions, and biases of people using the E word in church today. Frances Adeny, in her published work, Graceful Evangelism, suggests that there are three categories of definitions of evangelism. First of all, there is what she calls inclusive definitions. These engage the discussions of divergent approaches to the task. While they would be ordered differently, they all include this fundamental idea that the gospel must be preached in word and deed. People's needs must be met. The poor should not be forgotten. Justice must be served, and the witness of the church must include teaching and making of disciples. The problem, as I see it, is that because the focus is often skewed heavily on one side, bitter disagreements ensue, and both sides think they are doing what their denomination or their tradition or their group teaches. Then there are ideological definitions. The obvious result of disagreements brought about by the first idea of definitions is that what we are left with are definitions and statements that are ideological. Ideologies are a simplified view of the world that serve as a kind of map and highlights what we consider to be the important features of the landscape or the worldview of the group espousing that particular ideology. The tragedy, however, of this position is that they often ignore the complexities and tangential issues. They are basically a little too narrow. But then there are the lifestyle definitions, as Adini says. Many there are today who define evangelism as a lived experience. Persons often choose to live out their convictions by a passionate transformation of their vocation that leaves no room for negotiation, for compromise, or for debate. Obvious examples are, of course, Mother Teresa and Albert Schweitzer. From these definitions, it should be abidingly clear that the church has a mandate to evangelize the world. There is no argument with that. History, however, and experience has taught us that these definitions cannot be static. The Achilles heel of much of evangelism as it is being practiced today is, brothers and sisters, its hostility towards the culture and the context in which it is expected to be fruitful. There has been a rigid inflexibility that holds the promise of continued polarization unless a redefinition, a reimagining of the E word of evangelism is sought and is practiced. And that's what we want to do in this module. Many Christians mistakenly claim that their method of evangelism is the way it has always been practiced, and subsequently ignore what is going on in the society and in the world today. What is needed, however, to rescue evangelism is a careful study of the different cultural, economic, and social locations in which evangelism is done today. H. Richard Niebuhr aptly states that we are in history as a fish is in water. Our problem is that we practice evangelism as independent thinkers who figure out problems, analyze situations, and decide what to believe without regard or respect of the cultural, economic, and social factors that surround us. The sad result is that we are left holding a bag of inept models that turn people off and transform an angel into a frog. People in today's world are not going to let other people representing a very oppressive past tell them who they are. A mid-course correction, therefore, must take place to mitigate the obvious aversion that we see that is widespread to becoming local evangelists. Trivangelism introduces evangelism as a journey rather than a sale that has to be closed. So what has really gone wrong? There has been a seismic shift in outreach that few church leaders are understanding, much less pursuing. Let me put it this way. From the 1950s to the 1980s, the vanguard of evangelistic outreach was direct proclamation of the gospel. Whether it is the crusades of Billy Graham or the creative approaches of Willow Creek Community Church, presentation led the way. This led to joining a community and eventually being discipled into participation with the cause. From the 1990s through the 2000s, community took the lead. People wanted to belong before they believed. Skepticism was rampant, and trust in the institution, in the preachers, in the evangelists had to be earned. Once enfolded, then Christ was often met in the midst of that community. Cause, again, was the last to take hold. However, from 2010 onwards or forwards, cause has become the leading edge of our connection with a lost world, and specifically what is called the nones, N-O-N-E-S. Those individuals who are affiliated with no religious or spiritual worldview. Consider a passion conference that they had in Georgia. What arrested rather the outside media attention to this group of people who gathered. Their fundamental goal was to evangelize. However, it was their commitment to eradicate modern day slavery. Not the 60,000 students who were in attendance, much less the messages related to the Christian faith. The Great Commission does not say come. It says go. For too long, we have been staging events at our churches, at our locations, and hoping that that's the way we do evangelism. We only evangelize when people come to our church. This paradigm shift is profound. People want cause. We act as if the gospel commission was given to the lost, telling them to come to our churches. They did not receive the Great Commission. We are the ones who received the Great Commission. They were not told to come to the churches. We have been told to go out to the world. So we create events, health programs, reaping series, Bible study classes, then hope that people will come to us. Just to be sure, I looked up the word go in the dictionary, and it says to move or to travel, to move away from a place, to depart, to function properly, as in the car won't go. The problem is, it seems, is that many believers won't go. Society has changed, and people no longer bring their kids to church as they did before. This is for an obvious reason. Their kids are grown up. If we operate merely in the come paradigm, we will fail, especially today. The church must go. Which brings us to another word that needs to be redefined. And that word is seeker. We used to talk about the seeker-sensitive church. We don't have seekers anymore. Where are the seekers? For years, We have used the word seeker to refer to lost people who are searching for God. It's a reasonable definition, but it is based on come instead of go. The church must now take the initiative. That's what trivangelism is about. Reimagining the E word. It must move from being the inviting church to becoming the infiltrating church. It is not enough for the church to be seeker sensitive. The church itself must become the seeker. Let me repeat that again. It is not enough for the church to be seeker sensitive. The church itself must become the seeker. The ultimate seeker is Jesus Christ. And to be faithful to our mission, to follow his footsteps, we are today's seekers. When every member embraces that vision and the church organizes accordingly, we will begin to reach the lost in America. We will begin to reach the lost in Athens in significantly greater numbers. Not only would we be an awesome church, but we will thrill the heart of God because we have reimagined the E word. It is no longer a seeker-sensitive church. We cannot continue to do evangelism only for those who come to us. Evangelism is go. Evangelism is going out to meet the needs and to listen to the voices that we hear in our communities. That's what evangelism is all about. Could we reimagine the E word? The next module will be, module number 2, will be journey evangelism versus salesman evangelism. God bless you. You have a great day.